Hey, I'm Sarah, and you're listening to She's Doing All Right. This is a place for advice, encouragement, and personal stories for women in all stages of life. Whether you're figuring out your career, dealing with mental health, or experiencing postpartum motherhood, this is a space for you to be recognized. There's so much to compare ourselves to, and it can be really hard navigating it all. So I'm here to remind you that while the goal is to be thriving, it's okay if we are just doing all right for now. Thanks for being here, and without further ado, let's get into it. I just got back from book club about 20 minutes ago, sat down at my desk to start editing this podcast, which I've already filmed, and I cannot make you listen to that. Not only was it so dry and boring, but we also had a lot of mic sounds in the background, or maybe not in the background because it's the freaking mic. Awful, horrendous auditory experience. I'm not going to make you listen to that. I feel that would be just brutal, and I would lose me any approach of new listeners or current listeners for that matter. So let's restart this all. I also think I have a better grasp of my thoughts because I've been so exhausted and so tired. And when I recorded this a couple of nights ago, I could not string sentences together in like a nice manner. Now we know that is like a typical issue for me, but we're going to hopefully do better today. So jumping right into it, it's spring break with my kids. My son is home from school, which means I am momming 24/7. I'm already momming 24/7, but I typically get a little bit of a break because I can make my daughter nap in the afternoon when my son goes to school. Doesn't really help her naps, but it does help me. This week, no. And my son is really into this game of dinosaur bear family. So we pretend to be a dino bear family where he's the dinosaur and I'm the bear, and we live in our cave, which is literally a blanket thrown over my head and we sit there and we just talk about the weather. And I'm not joking. This is my 3-year-old's idea. He is obsessed with this game. It's been 2.5 days of playing this. I don't know how much more of it I can do, guys. I'm losing brain cells rapidly. So spring break as a kid, I've realized, is just like way more fun because it's always like exciting. You're getting a break from teachers and school. Typically you're taking like a little vacation. I know for my sister and I, it was like leaving the farm and leaving our small town. We went to the big city. We'd go do like swimming at the fancy city pools and all this stuff. Spring break rocked. As the parent, it is so exhausting, and my kids are barely alive. Like when they are teenagers and I'm planning family stuff, or if they have like camps and stuff, I don't even know. I'm like, what about going back to school after spring break? They have 1 week off and then they're back into their whole routine. This sounds exhausting and I'm not prepared for it at all. So this has been a very tiring week, and it doesn't help that my daughter's also getting her some more molars. How many molars do they have? I thought they had 4. I'm wondering if they have 8. I need to take a look at the dentist photo or something because she's getting new molars or new big teeth. And the poor girl is just very cranky and up all night. She will not take a bottle, so she's on my boobs. They are not doing well. I'm doing all right. These girls on my chest, they are not doing all right now. They need some serious care and love one day. But that's not happening anytime soon. So anyway, this is where we're at. Spring break feels like chaos right now. So because of all of the chaos, I didn't have time to film when I normally film on Monday. And I also didn't have a topic that I was going into. So this did lead me to go through a bunch of my old notes. And I came across a bunch of quotes because I always write quotes down in my notes. And I wanted to share this one with you. It's from The Courage to Be Creative, which is a book, I'm guessing, because I typically write my notes down from books. And it says, notice your flaws and insecurities that come in so many flavors and colors. And I just thought that was such a nice reminder. Like, I like to write these notes for myself and write down quotes because I never know when I'm going to find them again. But like, if it touched me once, it's probably going to touch me again. Spark some imagination, spark something. And that is such a good one because I've been struggling lately with this idea of perfectionism. And I was talking to somebody else about it like just a couple days ago, but when we feel like we've got this perfectionism and it stops us from doing anything because we're like, well, I'm not going to execute it the way I want to or the way I know I'm capable of, so why bother? And that's like I've talked about in the last few weeks on this podcast. My goal of this is now to just do like done is better than perfect. Get an episode out every week, figure out what to talk about sometimes in the middle of the show. If you listen to last episode, like we had just a bit of a, I don't want to say a swear word here because I'm trying to keep it clean, but I swear so much it is hard. But it's just like a mess, I'll say. And I'm trying to just get it done to practice not being afraid of imperfection, I guess, is how I'll put that. So finding this little quote of noticing your flaws and notice the insecurities and everything. And then like, instead of looking at them as flaws and insecurities, looking at them as flavors and colors that add to your life and add to the world. And I thought that was just so sweet and such a positive way of looking at our uniqueness. And it actually reminds me of another quote from a parenting book that I've read that I really liked. It was called Siblings Without Rivalry. And in it, the author writes, "Children do not need to be loved equally. They need to be loved uniquely." And I think about that for ourselves. We're often trying to show ourselves self-care or self-love based off of what works for everybody else. Is it Pilates? Is it a 5 a.m. wake up? Is it a cold shower? Is it sitting and eating cookies or baking? Like, it doesn't need to be equal to the love you're giving to everybody else, and it doesn't need to be equal to what everybody else is giving to themselves. You need to love yourself uniquely. So that was like a little spiral brain dump from this one little quote that I like. If you ever need a quote for a situation, message me because I love quotes. I don't know why, but if you can summarize something nicely in 2 or 3 lines, it just gets me. I love it so much. I've made videos in the past of like my favorite quotes, which sounds like I really need a life when I say that out loud. Yikes. Moving into this next segment here, I've got a break I've been finishing up my social media break. So I'm filming this on March 27th, I think, Thursday night. You will hopefully be listening to this Friday or anytime after. But as of April 1st, I will be back online as far as TikTok and Instagram. So I'm using up this week to kind of do a social media audit. And I've gone back to my pages, mostly my TikTok so far. Well, no, okay, I've kind of gone on both. So on my computer, I went onto my TikTok to my profile. Still haven't looked at my notifications or messages from that, but I went to my profile and I've been reading through my comments that I've left. I've been reading through videos I've posted, like watching them again. And honestly, just starting from scratch there. I don't want to delete everything, but I also wanted to take a look and kind of just audit myself, really. And it's been very interesting because I can see where I was just posting content for the sake of it. Then I can see where I was transitioned to UGC, and I can see where I've got like a little bit more fun with life and posting that. But there's a few main things. So I'm getting ahead of myself. The very first thing is that I have so many TikToks that should have just been stories. Like they could expire in 24 hours and no one's going to miss it. Like it's maybe funny or like a nice little quip in the moment, but we didn't need that to be online forever. That was ridiculous. It's making me so much more aware of what my digital footprint is, because I know stories are still part of the digital footprint, especially depending on like who you are and how many eyes you have on you. But I have really noticed that, like looking at my own page, if I was to die tomorrow, and like knock on wood, that's not happening, but if my Instagram and my social media was like left the way it was, I guess I'm kind of cleaning it up now, that could be so embarrassing. Like just because you have an opinion, you don't need to say it. And that's ironic for somebody who's making a video podcast for no reason other than the fact that I want to share my opinions on things. But I don't need to put it all on Instagram, or I don't need to put it all on TikTok. If I have an opinion on a grocery store, I don't need to share it, you know? And then the other thing I've noticed too is like, I like how authentic I show up, but I also could maybe remind myself that not everything needs to go online. There's certain times where I have shown up in just looking raggedy and the message was good, but I didn't like take time to put in any effort to myself, I guess. And I can see why those videos don't perform very well, because from the very first impression, I haven't taken time to put in effort. So then what's my message going to be? That can be a whole other topic on women and how men can literally roll out of bed or stay in bed and still get views, and how we value women's looks first. Unfortunately, it is the way it is right now. I'm not saying we can't change it. I think we should change it. I don't know if my face and slightly depressive tone is going to change it. That's that. Next thing I'm noticing, my life is mirroring my life 2 years ago or 2.5 years ago. I came across a video that was like, this is life with toddlerhood or on the brink of toddlerhood. The plant that goes in that corner is up on the table. The chairs that sit around the table are all up against the window so the toddler doesn't climb on the table to get into the now plant. And it's just a funny little video. And I really needed to see it because we are in that right now. My daughter is 14 months and she's climbing on everything and she's figuring out how to push chairs around and climb on counters, and it's just exhausting. And I just want my house back, to be honest. Like, nothing is safe. Nothing is sacred. Nothing is mine. And then I look at this video and I remind myself it is a cycle. Parenting is a cycle. Motherhood is a cycle. And I have a child who is in the middle of a very normal childhood cycle. She's exploring, she's learning. And just like we got to a stage with my son where we could have the chairs back at the table and we could keep the plant on the ground again, we will get there with her as well. I'm really grateful to see these videos and see how like my life is just a cycle. It's mirroring everything. And it makes me excited for the future and also makes me feel calmer about where things are going as well. Because at least for the next year and a half, I kind of have an idea of what it's going to look like based on the fact that I've already lived that. And that leads me to the third main point that I've taken away from having no social media at the moment is this fact that it's a video diary. I can look back on some of those videos. I can watch my depression form. I can watch my postpartum depression get roots and then flourish, and I can see it in my tone. I can see it in my eyes. I can see it in the way I speak and joke about things, and even the way that some of my lighthearted videos came across. Like, I know I was trying to make a funny video and I'd have people in the comments, or I remember friends reaching out to me being like, hey, are you okay? Like, I saw that video. And I'm like, no, it was a joke. So that has been interesting to look back on it with almost like my friends' perspectives or a viewer's perspective, because I'm out of that space now for the most part. I really love having a space to share my day-to-day, and I like to hear about people's comments. I like to see the community building, the connection. I've mentioned that a few times in this last month of doing this is like missing the connection. So going online or going onto those videos and seeing the people in the comment section and like me responding to comments and sharing things that were helping people, even if it was just like, hey, we're all having a really crappy day today because I saw somebody else say that the stars are not aligned very well, and everyone's like, oh, okay, yeah, my kid's not sleeping either. It's like a little sense of community, a little sense of connection with somebody who's going through something similar. This isn't going to be a very long episode, I don't think. I mean, not that they usually are, but I'm on my last point here. And this is kind of my perspective on looking back onto this month. So I have had access to Facebook before, like this month, whether it's Marketplace or just checking in on messages and stuff like that. And it has been so fascinating. My dad specifically has a pretty extreme political view, one that I don't necessarily align with. I'm of the opinion that you can have your opinion and I will have mine. And if we argue about it, fine. But like at the end of the day, we can agree to disagree. I don't like that most of the world doesn't want to live like that anymore. Why can we not agree to disagree? I do understand there's some nuance to that. Carrying on. Algorithms are designed to get our attention because our attention is the most valuable currency. When I am on Facebook specifically, I was really shown this because my dad would share something that is like pretty controversial, let's say, or very hot take. And some of it is correct. And I'm just like, well, I just think that's a really weird way of writing it. And then others were flat out wrong. And I would comment back to those because I'm bored because I have nothing else to do. I was like at night. And I would comment back to those and like fact check it or put in the correct information, or just even sometimes be like, you value the truth and this is not the truth. This is very misleading. And based off of my comments, this is what I think is happening. Based off of the comments that I am leaving on his extreme posts, my algorithm was giving me the alternative extreme, thinking like, okay, well, if you disagree with this person, perhaps you're going to like this. And I was getting just different like news sources, different websites being pushed at me, all of stuff that, again, very extreme, very biased. It was exactly what I was commenting against, but just flipped against whatever, like the next party or whatever. And I've really been thinking about this over this break of how, and I kind of went into this break of the fact that we used to have our own opinions. For myself, at least, like before social media took hold of my life in 2020, I'd say before that, I posted regularly. I had fun with it. But I guess what I'm trying to say is that we used to have our own opinions. I used to have my own thoughts, my own interests, my own ideas. And if I didn't have something, I had to go out and get it. So for a long time, I'll give this example. For a really long time, I wanted to rock climb. And I wanted to get into it. I'd thrown the idea at a few friends. And then we never did. And one day, I was like, hey, you can go by yourself. You can go do something scary. The scary part isn't even the rock climbing. The scary part is all the excuses you're coming up with not going. Like the excuse of, I don't want to go alone. What if somebody thinks it looks weird? I don't know what I'm doing. I've never been before or haven't in years, etc. So I finally went. I rented some shoes, didn't even actually have chalk, literally rented shoes and started bouldering and watched some other kids and just played around. Then I went home, watched some YouTube videos, went back, did that for like a week. Then I bought shoes, then I bought everything. I had a thought of interest. Like I literally thought, I think I'm going to like rock climbing. I want to get into it. And then I did it. I've never, like after COVID, I haven't really done that. Yes, I had kids and everything shut down and all this stuff. But now I've realized that my phone became my hobby. And in doing so, it also became my thoughts and it became my opinion. We tend to, myself included, we tend to put value into our trust of a source. I think we will find a source that they start sharing a lot of reliable information. Maybe we even fact check them and find out that this is good. They're doing their job, and we build all that trust. Then we start sharing those articles from these people because we're like, they are a respectable, reputable brand or company. There's a lot of reasons we can't do that because brands or pages build up followers and then sell them, and then anybody can be feeding you whatever. And I truly believe that is where the extreme parts of things start. And we never expand beyond these sources. And I'm guilty of this myself. Like I would come to my husband with information of something going on with our government or whatever, based off of me hearing somebody else talk about it because I trust that person. And I've gotten back into okay, I'm talking over myself. Can you even do that? Can you talk over yourself? Because I feel like that's what I'm doing. I used to, and I've been doing this now for a few months, but if I see anything that is something that I would have an opinion on, or if I would speak to anybody else, I Google it, I find my own research, I find my own thing, and just verify and be like, is this actually something that I want to put my name next to this as like, here, this is something worth sharing. Now, I think this is where it can get tough because a lot of people, and I'm going to just turn it political for a second because we're going into an election right now in Canada. And this is where I'm really getting a lot of this. I'm seeing it so clearly, especially on Facebook. But again, I don't know if it's everywhere else because I'm not everywhere else right now. Conservatives are getting their liberal news from conservative sources. Liberals are getting their conservative news from liberal sources. Everybody on both sides, on every side, they are manipulating information. They are manipulating headlines. The amount of AI stuff that is out there is insane. It's not real, or if it is, it's been grossly twisted just to get a headline, to get rage bait. And I'm seeing so many people lose their own opinion. And I think that this is the biggest lesson, I'll talk about this next week a little bit more. I hope to do an entire episode just on like my takeaways of doing a media-free month. If that sounds like a terrible idea to you and you don't want to hear that, please message me. Put it on the, like, go into Instagram, send me that. Be like, we got it, Sarah. It's all you've talked about for 4 weeks. Then I won't do it. But if you think it's an okay one, I'll do a poll and we'll go from that. But one of the biggest lessons and takeaways that I've gotten from this is that I've gotten my own opinion back. There are things that I've thought of, situations that I was like and have been heavily invested in that I have not stopped being heavily invested in. I've just found other sources for them. And then there's other things that I've completely forgot existed because it really was just taking up my attention, taking up my currency, and I wasn't aware that that wasn't my thought. That's not my opinion. That's not my interest. I'll give another example for that. Something that I do not give two craps about is famous people having issues with each other. Like when someone's like, oh, they unfollowed somebody, or like they've got beef with each other. They've got beef is the nastiest sentence, and I hate it. I don't ever want beef with anyone unless you're literally selling me a physical cow. Like, ew. I don't know where that came from. I will not be looking it up. I want that phrase to go away. But for the sake of the argument, before I left TikTok, there was these two singer rapper people, and they had beef with each other. And it was a very entertaining situation to me. And so then it had my attention. The second I deleted it, like deleted the apps, I forgot completely about it. I forgot that there was music videos. I forgot that there was diss-bat tracks going back and forth. And when I was on TikTok though, it was all I was seeing. Like that was all my algorithm was feeding me. And so, yeah, I guess I'll wrap this up by saying that our algorithms are probably not working in our favor unless you wrote the algorithm yourself. The people that run our social medias, the people that are giving it to us for free, they say, but shoving us full of ads and taking our attention away from things that really do matter, like our kids or jobs or creativity, they want us to be angry because that is one of the lowest vibrations in the universe. And if we're angry, then we're so busy fighting with each other that we actually stop fighting for what is best for all of us. And I thought it was very interesting just to notice that. And being offline, I'm interested to see if I can be aware of that when I go back. Or is it just going to suck me back in without me noticing? Because it took me 5 years to notice the first time, you know? So that's a bit of a random rant, and it went longer than I thought it was going to be. I'm going to end it now. I'm going to go to bed because I'm starting to feel my brain cells get fuzzy. And that's not good for any of us. I'm going to go find myself a mirror, and you're going to go find yourself a mirror, and then together we're going to look in the mirror and we're going to say, hey girl, you're doing all right. Because we are. Unless you're not, and then that's okay too. Message me about it, and we're going to help you just stay encouraged. I don't care if you're in the pits of something. If you posted it online, just know that one day you're going to look back on that video of you being at your worst, and you're going to go, wow, we came back from that. You can always make them come back. In fact, that's the last thing I'm going to say. Think about how many times you've made a comeback in life. Go write it down. Go tally it up. We're always making comebacks. This podcast made a comeback. Ooh, I just jinxed it. Stay tuned for next week. I promise there's going to be an upload next week. Okay, I'm going to bed. Thanks for bearing with me. Thanks for watching and listening. I appreciate you. Go follow the podcast on social media. I will be back. I will engage with you. Well, as of next week. Sarah.g.carter on Instagram and TikTok. And she's doing all right on Instagram for the podcast episode itself. You know what I'm saying. This is word salad now. Okay, love you. Bye.